Okay, Jesse, the last style of setting we're going to talk about is channel setting. So all of the rings we're going to look at are going to be some version of channel, bead set, or common prong. Channel will be the least popular just because it's not in vogue right now. It's a little more contemporary. So we're actually looking at some pictures here. It's a little more modern. Everyone wants that kind of vintagey look right now. But while we're talking about stone setting, let's look at them all. So the difference between channel and the others is if you look, it's kind of meant to look like the diamonds are floating in this little channel. So if we just did a cutter the way we normally did for something bead set, we would see that metal a little too closely. So you can kind of see the way they look in these pictures. The idea is, you can see it's like really recessed before you get to the metal. Ours is going to be a little different. This is like, I guess you would say, some proprietary knowledge, because we're going to use a cutter that Matrix doesn't even make, but it should still be on your computer because I'm pretty sure I put it on there personally. I added the cutter. In case that ever comes up, you can actually make your own custom cutters. So here's our channel setting. So you can see when you look at this picture, whereas the other one was perfectly square, this is kind of shaped like the bottom. You can see it's like a little shelf for the diamond to sit on all the way across. So this gets a little different because all the others, we wanted the cutter to sit outside the gems. This one, we want it to sit just inside of the gems. And we wanted on the others, the prongs to go above the table of the diamond. In this case, the metal will go above the table of the diamond. So again, most of this information should already be on here. Yeah. So you'll see the table should sit 0.15 to 0.2 millimeters below the metal. So let's start the way we always do with a ring rail and an outer ring rail. You know what? I'm going to make it a little taller on this one. Just so we can do some larger stones, because there will be, they do have to be recessed a little more, and I want to make sure there's room for the culet of the diamond. So just like always, we put our gems on there, and we'll put our gems on top, but then we need 0.15 to 0.2 millimeter depth. So there's 0.2. So see what I'm talking about? Now it starts to get precarious how close that is. So typically channel bands you will see are a little taller between the finger, which isn't a huge deal. But again, probably another reason they're not as popular as some of the other styles. So I have my diamonds here. The good news is there's a lot less to have to do with, that you have to do with the channel band just by nature of the ring itself. You don't have to worry about prongs. Basically you just need your cutter and your metal. So I just want to make sure all the information is here. So same thing, your culet should be above 0.5 millimeters. I can eyeball that and tell you we're there. Obviously, if this was for a customer, I'd be, more particular. The stone should be about the same gap as what we were talking about in the others. You can see this, they can go a little bit further apart, and it's because on the prong set rings, if they got too far apart, the prongs got weird. Here we don't have to worry about prongs, so you can actually gap them out a little further. Obviously, you don't want them too far apart or it looks weird and spacey, but you can go a little further on the others. Don't worry about this baguettes and princess cuts because they have their own rules and they're the oddity. We're normally doing this with rounds. All right, so for rounds, we're going to make the channel cutter 90% the width of the gem. So we're going to do our channel builder as always. Normally, we would do this square one. If you click inside here, we're going to find what should be basically the last one because I added it, this one. You can see it looks just like there. And what we want is this shelf to be at the girdle of the diamond. So we're going to drop it down. Oh, no, that's height. You want to do the opposite. Okay. And 90% width. So when you look down, you can see basically that's how much diamond is going to be covered by a metal wall. And if you look down here, you can kind of get the idea. See how the diamond's going to like fall in and kind of sit on this shelf for Gabber. So there'll be a nice pretty opening and everything should sit pretty well. So we'll right click on that. Then the channel wall itself, do I have that written on here? at least 1/2 millimeter wide and increasing in width as the gems get larger. Kind of the same rule for prongs, right? In this case, the wall is acting as our prong, so if you had a big diamond, you'd do a big prong. If you had a big diamond and channel, you do a big channel. So we can kind of use the same janky rule that I used for the bead set band if you want. Maybe like 0.5. And then I know I need it to come about that wide. I would avoid doing anything overly domed on a channel band, and I'll tell you why for your profile. If you think about the fact that the metal gets cut here, if you do something that's arced up like this, your height here will be too low, and I'll show you what that means. So let's grab our inside ring rail. Let's put a profile there. I'm going to do one that's pretty, yeah, we'll choose this one that's pretty domed. Make it 1.5 millimeters high. Okay, so let's sweep 2. Maintain our height. Okay. Okay. So if I cut this by that, you can see how the metal is going to stop here. Like there, we can't fold that over the top of the diamond. So basically I need it to be the height of the diamond, at least here-ish. So something that's super domed isn't going to work. It doesn't have to be perfectly square, but definitely pretty square, if that's a fair thing to say. So let's say at minimum, like this one, or you would have to make it a lot taller, in which case I might build my profile up at the top instead of at the bottom. That way I could make sure it hit here at the right spot. All right, so let's move our height to like 1.5. We're going to sweep 2. Maintain our height as always. Again, we can kind of get rid of these little guidelines. And look at the difference. See how tall it is here? It's definitely enough that Geber has place to fold it over, even though it's domed. Obviously, this one's perfectly square. That's even better for Geber, but you can have a little bit of an arc. And then the last thing we need are our gem cutters. Just close that out. Again, we want to make sure it just basically goes through the ring. And now we're going to do a Boolean difference. So we'll put our green here, our orange in here, and make sure you're on this far left one where it's cutters. You can see this, it glues them together. You can see what we have here is a channel band. Now this extended past the diamonds, it certainly doesn't have to, and I'll show you where that extension might come in handy. We were talking about like the round extension. Sometimes where the diamonds stop is perfectly flat like this, in which case you'd kind of want to match the 90% gap. I would have wanted a shorter cutter, which again, you know how to change that with the cap or the extension. And sometimes they go like this, where it extends past. And then some even crazier ones have like it's called like a rounded airstream. Let's see if I can find a picture. Here we go. So you know how it had the end, it could be flat or sharp or round. Here's your rounded edge. You can kind of imagine you would bring your extension to here and you would make your cap really long, and that's how you get that like long arc shape. So again, if I kind of come back in here and just hit channel, oh, that's not what I meant to hit, escape, channel builder. So I could have brought it to there. That would look more like a lot of the pictures. I could have done something more like this that would have had that rounded airstream. Again, it kind of depends on what it is that you're trying to build, but you can see channel, super fast, super easy, no big deal. The biggest difference is really the diamonds need to sit below everything. So even this is like a little shy, because ideally we'd want that metal to come up a little bit more over the diamonds. but if you had had a perfectly square profile, that would have been perfect.